This is a Wild Game Production podcast.
You remember.
Roll your stealth roll.
Game books, pencils, pizza, cheese puffs, and a hell of a lot of dice.
And the Dragon Ball Cup.
Roll for Initiative. This is the Roll for Initiative podcast, where 1E is the place to be.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Roll for Initiative podcast. I am DM Nick, and I'm here with my faithful and wonderful and terrific DM Matt, our producer.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
And this is a issue. Which one is it?
This will be Volume 9, Issue 216.
Volume 9, Issue 216. All right. And going along with our journey down memory lane with the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, we are going to do the City at the Edge of Midnight. That's episode 16 from season 2. That was written by, I believe, Michael Reeves and Carl Gers, and it was directed by John Gibbs. It premiered September 22nd, 1984. And the synopsis of the episode is the kids must seek out the city of Ed at the edge of midnight and save its children from the Night Walker who steals little children at the stroke of midnight.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun. This episode on IMDb was rated, I think it's rated 8.5 stars. And I'll bring up, there's a moment in this episode where I think it lends it to that rating. And I'll point that moment out once we get to it. So our episode begins really in the normal world. You see this face of a clock and it's ticking. It's like 2 minutes to midnight, like the nuclear countdown clock back from in the 80s from 2 minutes to midnight. Isn't that an Iron Maiden song? Yeah. Anyway, so you see this little boy sleeping in his bed and you hear slowly the clock is slowly winding down. And then all of a sudden, you see this light come out from under his bed. This eerie reddish glow. And he's getting sucked up from under his bed. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like the movie Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And dad is yelling at him, Jimmy, where do you go? And Jimmy is sucked under the bed. And dad's like, son, where are you? Where are you? And he's screaming his name, little Jimmy. And you see a police car pull up.
Yeah, what a way to start an episod of a Saturday morning
I know,
cartoon.
that was different. Let me say.
Yeah.
And a little bit of distress there. I mean, so it quickly switches to basically the realms again and another desert, big surprise, with all these like crystals. So there, Eric's complaining like, I'm sorry, we made the wrong turn. It's my fault. We need water. We're going to die. It's like, so, nope, hold on. My mouse disappeared.
Oh no.
And then Eric's like, it's like, maybe we should have gone this way. And then DM shows up, of course.
Of course.
And then DM like sits down on one of these crystal things. He says, you'll find safety and danger ahead.
Oh.
And then he says, well, yes, I'm sorry about that, but you will must find the city of Edge of at the edge of midnight because that, because it could be a way home, I suppose. And this is how we can find it. It says, they have to find the Sea of Edge of Midnight. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
No worries.
And Though it's basically DM says like the children of the realms and of their world where they came from are in danger. And so a little ominous note to trying to find the city of Edge of the Midnight. And they're asking him, where can we find it? It's not a matter of like you finding it, whether it finding you.
Oh.
So
unlike last time where he gives a map, this time he's just going to, no matter where you wander, you're going to find it. Railroad.
Yeah, basically. Choo-choo, railroad. And then the wind picks up. They all get blinded and DM disappears. So they're complaining again. It's like, how do we know where to go? It's like, why don't you ask Eric? He was the one who got us lost.
But then they're not paying
Eric's
attention to the DM. The DM said he would find them, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
Railroad.
And then like Eric's like, oh, fine. The heck with you guys. Ski guys, have me on hand. And he goes up a sand dune and he falls down the other side. And then all of a sudden they find an oasis.
Yes, the oasis. And then they finally get the water and get some more water frolicking for 2 episodes in a row.
Yes, they're frolicking in the waters. Like now they're not gonna like waste away. And then a hook horror shows up. Yes, a hook horror, folks. And then a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Since they're kind of like, I guess since they're kind of like birds, would it be a flock of hook horrors?
Yeah.
Well, there's like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, it's like the DM's being kind of mean here with that many hook horrors.
How do you know it was DM sending them? Well, we can only assume.
Yeah, I'm assuming everything in this is DM, and he just enjoys
DM's fault.
Yeah, it's all the DM's fault.
Because DM's a dick.
Exactly.
So they're backed up against this fountain in the in this oasis, and then they're trying to surround them, the hook horrors, and then all of a sudden there's a wall behind them. I guess what would be like an elephant or an olephant.
Yeah.
With a guy, big giant guy, well, giant guy, but a big fellow wearing a turban.
Comes in.
He's like, comes up with a big huff, and he's just like, big little furry little creatures,
Yeah.
And he just kind of laughs.
Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, see, grouped large flocks of hook horrors every day. Nothing to see here. No, not concerned in the least.
And they're like, and he says, should we, as you say, knock their socks off? And they kind of team up and all attack the hook horrors. And Eric's like, what the heck is going on here? This guy just shows up and now we're all of a sudden friends.
Right. You look like a trustworthy fellow to the extreme.
I find it interesting that the guy wearing the turban seems to be well versed in slang from Earth.
Right.
So
yes,
they fight yeah.
But when we get further into the episode, you could figure out why. Right.
But they fight the hook horrors and they defeat them, and he says, very good, my children. You guys are, how you say, hot stuff.
Yes. He's like the dad that's trying to be cool by throwing out all the kids things say, and
and Eric finally is like, he gets surrounded by these hook horrors. He's like, and his back is up against the wall, and then our unknown Arab man with the turban says, stand back, basically is like, hold my beer. I got this. And takes this big old scimitar and smacks it on the ground, wham, and it produces these like sonic waves, I guess. And it like blows apart this wall and starts raining down rubble and stuff on the hook horrors.
He does the old Hulk earthquake thing with his sword somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then so you get all the rubble raining down the hook horrors, and then they're not a problem anymore.
Right. So Eric's like, okay, who are you? Essentially.
Yeah.
So who are you? And he says his name is Ramud. And he says he's a merchant from Kadesh. He says this is the forbidden oasis of no return. And what happens is people who spend the night at the oasis turn into monsters. And that's what those hook horrors were.
Oh.
So that leads me to ask the question, maybe they weren't attacking, but they were trying to ask for help and didn't know because they're turned into hook horrors. They can't communicate.
Right. They're like,
maybe,
save me. If someone's hook horror, help me. And it's like, it comes out, rah, 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 rah. Oh, kill it. They were bringing love. And instead you killed it.
Yeah. Pretty much. So it could be a big misunderstanding for all we know.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't kill the hook horrors. They just buried them under some rocks. They're still okay.
Yeah, that's right, because you're not going to show any killing in this show.
Right. They're just buried. They're a little uncomfortable, but they'll unstack them and undo the magic. That's it.
Right. Yeah. So Ramud asks our heroes if he wants to join the caravan he has. So he gets his caravan ready to go and gets everybody up on these kind of these elephant looking creatures. And they all get up on right on them, and Eric's on one of them and he's trying to get him to go. And Ramud says, "You have to say Katrash." And then Eric's like, Katrash, Katrash. He goes, "No, Master Eric, roll your R's." And he's, okay, Katrash, Katrash. And the thing just like takes off running after the rest of the caravan. Ha, ha, ha.
Ha, ha. Making fun of Eric because he can't roll his R's.
Yes. So they get the caravan going. And they finally, I guess, they get to his encampment, and they're having a big old feast. And it looks like Bobby was eating ice cream. There's this big old feast out there with all the 4 food groups, good, properly displayed.
Yeah, it was a well-rounded feast for being in the middle of a desert.
Well, hey, he has his ways.
Yes, and I mean, at this point, when I was watching this, I'm like, I wonder if he's a bad guy because he's coming off he's got his stuff together a little too good.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll find out more about him.
Right, because Ramud, talks about his daughter, that she went missing when in the palace at night, and they offered to help to find his daughter, and he's like, no, there's no real easy way to reach her. It's a long story, but do not worry. Ramud is here as and you're my guest, and let's sleep here for the night.
Yep. He keeps referring to him as his
children, my children.
And Sheila in particular reminds him of his daughter.
Yes. He said, Sheila says, you remind me of my daughter.
Yeah. So they have this. He has this bond with the kids, which if you're going down, he's the villain mindset. It's like, okay, this is getting a little creepy. But
he helped the kids. He helped our heroes, and he's treating them well. And so our heroes bed down for the night, and they're all like, why don't we stay with Ramud?
Right.
And because he's like a father to us, and like you said, he says he's calling them my children.
Yeah, he's
providing. And you get this. Yeah, he's providing for them. He's protecting them, and he seems like a fairly good man. And then when Eric's like, he's kind of bedding down here, and Eric says, he's like, he's better than my dad ever was. He has this kind of sad look on his face, like there's a little bit of background here with Eric and the rich spoiled kid and his dad,
right? Yeah, so we start getting little seeds of back history prior to the show of the kids, because we've never really delved into any of that so far in the show.
No, not really at all. So we get a little bit of we get a little background there of Eric. Yes, he's the spoiled kid, but there's he does not have a very good relationship with his father back home. Right. So Ramoud checks in on the kids and sees they're not asleep yet, and then he says to Sheila, "I have a gift for you," and it's a doll that used to be Ramoud's daughter's, Aisha. That's his daughter's name is Aisha, and he says, it was, if I cannot find my daughter, I would like to know that it was at least loved by someone who, reminds me of her.
Right.
And this cute little doll, very simple little doll. And you see like tears in Sheila's eyes.
Right. You just had this touching moment here.
Yeah. They had this little touching moment. And then it fades to, basically, I guess the clock there is like a water clock, because you see water dripping. Yeah. And it's just about to strike midnight, and it stops. Yeah. And you're like, uh-oh, seen this before.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the ground starts glowing under Bobby. And it's not because he peed the bed. It is a magic portal that is opening up. And you find this out after a commercial break. There's this rectangular portal that opens up. Bobby's being sucked in. Sheila has him. Hank's shooting the magic bow. And then all these like flames shoot out. And then I'm guessing it is a demon. Yeah. I don't think it's an Ifrit. I think it's a demon. I guess it could be an Ifrit.
Yeah, it could go either way. Just this flaming monster.
Yes, this flaming kind of almost dog-like face-looking monster. And then Ramoud is like, tries to attack it. He grabs Bobby, and she is like, this boy is mine, and then boom, disappears. And the portal closes. And you hear Ramoud during this battle, he says, "I found him at last." I'm like, and you're like, huh?
Was he? Yeah.
Found him at last. I'm like, oh.
So that's who took his daughter.
And took the other kids too.
And he was using the kids as bait.
Well, this is where you'll find out. Well, I don't know about bait, but
the kids inadvertently became bait.
Yeah, I think it was completely unintentional. Well, maybe, not for, Ramoud for sure, but for Dungeon Master, no, he's the guy. He's the one behind this, because,
he was pro-child.
He set this all up.
Yeah, he set up all the child abduction.
Yeah, because DM's a dick. But Ramoud mentions that this creature really has no name, so everybody calls it the Night Walker. He's the one who took Aisha.
But if they call it the Night Walker, it has a name.
Right. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's the point in the episode where I think this is why I got 8.5 stars. He explains that, it took his Aisha, and you see this look of determination on everybody's face. Because there's this, when he's talking, it's panning to everybody in the group. You see Hank, Eric, Presto, you see Diana. And the clock is striking midnight. Okay. And
you have that epic moment of the heroes are like, we're going to do this. We're going.
And then here's the thing, you hear it strike midnight, and then Eric's like, you remember the dummy who said that, we shouldn't be going? Well, forget that dummy. Let's get this thing open. It's Eric.
Yeah.
That steps up. The one who's kind of sort of a coward, but it's not just, Aisha, but took one of their own, took Bobby.
Right. And it's like that bond that they had,
Mm-hmm.
that bond of a father and daughter. Eric saw that love and he was like, he channeled it. That gave him the strength. It was like, we're going to do this.
Yeah, let's get that thing open. It's like you could see the determination to get Bobby and Aida clearly on their faces.
Yeah.
And you see this, it's like Hank just nods his head.
Mm-hmm.
Presto grabs his hat, and Sheila grabs Bobby's helmet and club. Diana gets her staff ready, and Hank's like, are you ready? All this magic comes out. Diana has her staff. Ramud, smacks his scimitar and his staff to make the sonic blast towards the ground. And then Hank fires his bow, and then the magic portal opens up again.
Yeah, through their powers.
And I'm describing this scene to everybody because it's pretty impressive, because then you see again, and just Ramud's like, my children, are you ready? And Eric's like, there's no time like the present.
Yes, they cease being kids at that moment.
And they become heroes.
Yes.
They truly become heroes. That whole scene, how it I'm getting kind of goosebumps just talking about it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But that was, I think, I don't know if it's a turning point, but I think it's kind of a watershed moment in the series where you get this, you see this look on their faces during this whole thing of like, we have to do this, and we're going to get Bobby back, and we're going to get Aisha back. And it was a very adult moment.
Right. And I mean, this episode, when you look at the themes and like how it starts, it's all very deep for your typical Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, there's the underlying theme of child abduction.
Right. You have the child abduction, and then the bond of family, and that importance from it, and what you will do for your family.
And that family could be, father to daughter, or in this case, also a group of friends.
Right. It's that.
Yeah. I liken it to like over time, where when you're a soldier and you spend all this time together and you've been through hell and you form this bond, and they've been who knows how long in the realms, right?
Right.
They've all formed this bond, and it's like one of ours is gone and we're going to get them back.
Right. Because no one
to the portal. Yeah.
Yeah. No one else can understand what they've been through other than each other. So they can relate on an entirely different level to each other. And you have that bond. And this episode is just bringing out that themes. And it'll be interesting to see as the series continues in the remaining episodes, if you still have because this is the first time where they really showed that we're not kids.
Yeah, because you know what? Now that I think of it, words there was none of that bickering, between like Eric and Hank, or Presto and Eric, and all of that going on.
Right.
None of that. They were all they knew exactly what they had to do, and it was Eric who kind of started it off. It's like, let's do this thing.
Right.
And that was like the turning point. This is where they're no longer kids. They've matured, and they're just like, this is what we got to do. No argument. There was no argument. I think that was the key thing. There was no argument amongst those kids at all.
No, because usually there would always be Eric saying like, oh, I don't know about that.
Right.
Instead,
not this time.
No, this time he was like, the one who's always saying let's not is saying let's do.
Let's do this. Let's do this. And then they jump into that portal, and you get the commercial break, and then you come back kind of weird landscape, and they must be in the city at the. And the clock is like right stuck 1 minute before 12. And Eric's looking around and saying, "Hey, looks like we're being watched, we're being followed." And he's like there's another one. These like little demon looking things that are like gray and black and stuff. And then they start running after him. So you got these shadow demon things chasing them, and they chase them to a dead end. And there's Ramud, and he's standing there about ready to face off with them. And Sheila's like, "Well, hold on a minute. Well, maybe they know where they are. Have these shadow monsters take us to maybe where Bobby and Aisha are." And they all kind of, in a way, agree. Ramud's like, "Sheila, you are just as brave as my little Aisha." So they let these shadow monsters take them to the Nightwalker. So we get to a scene to where, it's they're taking him to the clock tower, and you can see that they are led inside this giant clock tower. And then you see a scene where these children by the children are basically being used as slaves to hold back the mechanical workings of the clock so it will not strike midnight. Now, here's my question. Why?
I don't know. I don't know why it couldn't be done
Why? Why can't this thing strike midnight? What happens?
Right. And it looks like this thing, all it does is abduct children to keep the clock from turning, and then spend its time abducting more children to keep the clock from turning.
Turning midnight. Yeah. So I'm like, well, that was the only kind of plot hole I found. I'm like, okay, they got to get the children back so the thing won't strike midnight. But why?
Right.
What's the point of it? So they're inside the clock tower. They run away and from the shadow monsters and the Nightwalker. They're running away, and they start to climb up on one of the clock's weight. And actually, before that, you hear the Nightwalker says, "What are they doing?" And he says, you hear the Nightwalker say, "They hold back the wheels of time."
Oh, so time's frozen there because the clock is not ticking.
But it's like, why? Why is that so important? Why stop the wheels of time? Because you don't really get a good explanation.
Right. Well, I guess also if the hands of time aren't turning and time is frozen, the kids will never age.
But
so
why the Nightwalker needs these kids for the stop it from turning to midnight? I mean, what's his benefit besides enslaving children? Maybe he's just evil just for the sake of evil, I guess.
Well, well, he is the Nightwalker and has no name, so maybe he does twirl his mustache.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. Maybe this is kind of a. I don't know if I want to venture down this road. Maybe it's kind of. He's doing it because he likes it.
Right. It's like
maybe this is a metaphor for child abuse.
Maybe it's yeah.
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 I'm wondering if it is.
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, just with the theming of this episode is very dark, and you could almost see that. Or it could just be they were just thinking of what's kind of an intriguing idea, and we're reading way too much into it.
Well, that's true too. Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking about it now. It's like, well, what's the reason why he's doing it? Maybe because he likes it.
Right.
He just likes, keeping these kids as slaves. So in a way, like child abuse.
Yeah.
I guess. So
yeah,
anyway,
sounds good to
take
me.
it for what it is.
Right.
but I don't know if that's what they were actually going for there. But I can maybe see that,
Yeah.
and how bad it is, and I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. It's a good lesson where when stuff like that happens, you gotta stand up to it. So they're taking off away from the Night Walker and the shadow monsters. Eric's deflecting blasts away from the Night Walker. They climb up a clockweight, and time has to start again. We got to get this thing started. And they're going up, 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 and then they see Bobby. And they get Bobby his club and his helmet back. And then Bobby uses his club to start the clock again. He knocks away like a whole bunch of like blocks, if I remember correctly, just like
it was like blocks and rope and just anything they could to wedge the time from moving.
And he knocks them away. So the whole thing starts up again. Excuse me. And then Ramoud is calling out for Aisha and trying to find her.
Because at this point is when the kids that were abducted, once the clock strikes midnight, start disappearing.
Yep, the spell is broken from the Night Walker. They start, I guess, returning home. And then they look around, and guess who's one of the kids? That little Jimmy at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
And they know Jimmy, and Jimmy knows our heroes. And he's like looking at them and saying, wow, this is a really weird dream. And he's like, oh, wow. It's a Sunday night. Remember, I couldn't go with you guys to the amusement park, and I had to stay home. And so, yeah, haha, very funny. This is just all a really weird dream. I'll see you all tomorrow at school. So,
right. But a takeaway from that is, in the real world, only like maybe a day has passed.
Yeah. The cops are going to be totally blown away by seeing what happened here.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So it's like this kid like finally pops up in his bed, like, okay, where'd you come from? Well, I just had a bad dream, right?
Yeah. I went and hid under the bed.
Yeah, that's it. So after, meeting with Jimmy, and then Jimmy disappears, and he's like, I'll see you in the morning at school.
Yeah. See you in the morning.
So they all return to Ramoud's camp. Oh yeah, before he disappears, the kid says, hey, can't wait to see where your crummy card tricks there, Presto.
Oh.
Then I found out something very interesting here.
Yeah.
You see Eric starting to glow like the other kids when they started to disappear.
Yeah.
And then they show up at Ramoud's camp. So what does that tell you?
They are home.
Are they home?
This is where they belong?
Yeah. And then, Eric takes a tumble down a sand dune, and there's DM.
Yeah. Unless it's a little more literal and it's where you went through the portal.
Yeah, well, you never know. Well, this is where DM kind of comes into play, and he says to Ramoud, oh, hello, Your Majesty.
Oh.
And apparently Ramoud is a king, and Ramoud says, where's my daughter Aisha? And there she's just running out of one of the tents, says, Father! And he grabs her and they hug. So Aisha's back. And this is your sister.
Oh.
So DM says to them, Ramoud is a king, and he's a ruler of vast land, and he calls us his children, that Sheila says. And as he said that through the whole episode, right? He's calling them his children.
Yeah.
And then DM says, that is the next choice that you must make. So they basically have to make the choice. Are they going to stay with Ramood or continue to find a way home to their real families? And it cuts to the scene where Aisha's holding the doll and gives it to Sheila and says, keep this. And they decide they're going to find a way home.
Yeah.
So they gives them enough food and provisions to go and ride these elephant creature thingies.
Yep.
And then Ramood says, well, we shall, as you say, take alley-oops. And then Eric's like, Katrash again. Well, no, Master Eric, roll your R's. Katrash. And then it takes off again. And everybody has a cute little laugh. Mm-hmm. And then the end.
Yeah.
This was a really good episode.
Yeah. Yeah, the series seems to be starting to hit its stride here with episodes here, because it's very much multi-layered. If like we were like the 5-6-year-old us watching this, we wouldn't necessarily pick up on like the themes and some of the more subtle storytelling that's going on here between we're getting hints of the backstory of the characters, and then we're seeing them grow from just being these kids thrown into a new land and goofing around and not taking things serious to we're going to do this. And
just that whole scene there where it takes Bobby and explaining how Aisha was taken by this night walker creature, and just that whole thing where there was no argument, there was no arguments, there was no bickering amongst themselves. They just looked all at each other like, we know what we got to do.
Right. Yeah, because if you look at this episode, there was a little bit, but not a lot of the normal comedy. It was everything was more straight in this. Yeah,
there was some comedy here and there.
Right, but it was more bookended than once they hit the meat of the episode, this is serious.
Yeah, this was, I thought, a fairly well-written episode. And just the whole idea behind, like I said, maybe just it's simple as that night walker thing just likes to torture children.
Right. Yeah. And
so.
Yeah, and now, though, how would you use this in a game?
See, that's tough.
Yeah. Because, I mean, okay, I could see you have, like, the Night Walker, it's abducting children. Okay, you got that. But then you got to go rescue them. But it's, because when I'm just looking at this, I'm like, okay, you could kind of do that. But what really makes this is that emotional storytelling that's involved. That's more the focus of this.
Like involved, maybe the party gets involved that the king's heir to the throne has been abducted,
right,
by this demon creature called the Night Walker, and he asks for your to go find this Night Walker, and in search of this Night Walker, one of your own, like the Night Walker,
right? Yeah.
So something like that.
Yeah.
That could work.
Right. And I would try to come up with a better explanation on
why.
On why. Yeah, why. Other than maybe it is that the Night Walker needs to keep that area frozen in time just so it doesn't go poof and disappear and die. I mean,
like what happened in the episode, essentially, to the Night Walker.
Right.
It just disappears.
But then my question would be, why do you have to abduct the kids to do it? Why can't you just sprig something and no one will ever know? So it would almost have to be like maybe it's feeding off the youth of the kids, and the kids start, while time is frozen for the Night Walker, it's actually
Maybe
set
it's
up
feeding upon their fear or something like that.
Yeah, it's just something that involves it needs kids and not just like big sturdy men to hold it or whatever. It needs
Right.
something
It needs
about
that
the
fear from the children or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I almost got like the kids being whisked away to Neverland vibe with like between them getting not the like the Disneyfied Neverland either. The actual original story, which was a much more darker place where kids could be kids, but there's that sacrifice involved with that, and perhaps I was almost wondering if they were going to go more that route when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, they're getting abducted. Oh, you got these shadow demon-ish creatures.
Yeah.
I was thinking almost the Peter Pan where you have this area just full of kids that can never leave. Because if they leave, then all of a sudden, perhaps time, it doesn't move for the Night Walker. But if the kids were to leave that, have been there too long and leave that area, they age rapidly and they absorb the time that the Night Walker passed.
I see. Huh. So it's almost like a catch-22. You want to save the kids, but how long they've been there, they might, age for a long time and they might just die, some of them.
Right. Do you take say a child was abducted like 100 years? They've been there like what's been 100 years, but seems like nothing to them because time's frozen. You take them out of that, their parents are dead. And then perhaps they'll just rapidly age and become elderly or whatever, and they never really got to live.
Yeah.
So what do you do? As we just take this show and make it even darker.
Right. So I guess with that, we should ask you folks out there, what do you think of this episode when you watch it? Hopefully along with the actual episode with our commentary. Now, what would you do to maybe kind of put this in an adventure? What you think of the episode? So, let us know by going to our Facebook page or, texting or not texting, but tweeting Vince, the evil DM. And I think with that, I don't know if there's anything else I could say about the episode, but I think it was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
Go
out of your way to watch this.
Yeah, it's really good. In retrospect, I didn't realize how much of a good episode it was. So with that being said, let's wrap this up and keep it original and keep it old school. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Roll for initiative.